So you just got told that you have an unsafe panel. You have a Federal Pacific. You don't really know why it's unsafe. Let's get into that. First of all, if you haven't been told that you have a Federal Pacific panel, how can you find out? Right there. That red-orange color on the front of these breaker faces, it's just a painted surface on the front. Got black all the way else around it, but orange right there on the face. That color lets you know that these are Federal Pacific. No one else has used that other than Federal Pacific here in the American side of things. So Federal Pacific panels, first of all, lost their UL listing years ago, and they did so after reviews by the CPSC. That's the Consumer Product Safety Commission. When they tested these breakers, 2 poles and single poles, the 2 poles failed at a rate of around 85%, 39% or so failure rate here. The scary thing is that there's 2 ways that it fails. So what does that mean when it fails? First of all, it doesn't trip during an overcurrent. So this breaker is rated for 40 amps. That means that it should trip when it gets above 40 amps. Usually the threshold for that is about 135% of that is where it should trip. However, they didn't trip at 135% and they didn't trip all the way up to 200%. That was resulting in that 85% failure rate. Again, 39% here on single poles, but that's still not a good number. You don't want a breaker that doesn't trip when it should. That can lead to wires that burn into, can lead to unsafe conditions where there are sparks. Sparks make fires. Fires burn down homes. That's scary talk. But that's the reality of what happens when breakers don't trip. Secondary ways that these failed is, first of all, not tripping during overcurrent. We just talked about that. The second way that they failed is internal. There's actually enough mechanical friction in how it is that these devices work that once they had tripped, there could be enough mechanical friction inside that no amount of current, meaning like if you doubled this 40 amp to 80 amps, or you took it to 120 amps, or you took it to 200 amps, no amount of load that they put on these breakers was causing some of them to trip. And when they had figured that out, it was because internally they were actually jamming, meaning that you could not trip them. Not just they didn't trip when they should or when they really should, but you just couldn't trip them. So if you have breakers like this, they are 100% an electrical hazard. It's something that we should get addressed. Modern panels across the board are safer than these. If you have one, let us know. We'd be happy to give you a bid on what it would take to get it replaced. But now you know why that Federal Pacific is not safe.